It was, by every definition of the word, a mess, but the Galactic Union worked. It wasn't a well-oiled diplomatic machine, as some of the more younger and naive races had hoped, but more so an organization that relied too heavily on bureaucratic nonsense. It covered incalculable species from across the stars, all coexisting with each other, trading and occasionally having petty disputes over resources and technology, but on the whole it worked. And then, there were the humans. When asked, most of the older, more senior ambassadors could not remember when humanity joined the Galactic Union, or how, or even why. The records were inexplicably missing, and those entries that were there were either incomplete or nonsensical. Their currently assigned ambassador, a human by the name of Jenkins, rarely attended council meetings, and when he did, it was usually so he could have a quick nap. This example of humanity did little to improve the galaxy's perception of the humans, who were seen as a bit slow and altogether lazy, mostly harmless and best left to their own devices. The peaceful day-to-day drudgery of diplomatic life was suddenly shattered when the Xylos, a young race of crystalline beings known for their body art and vibration music, was struck by a devastating plague. Their ambassador, Lumina, stood before the council, shimmering in the chamber's lights, her composure betraying the despair she must have been feeling. She begged and pleaded her people's plight. She offered anything and everything for help combating the plague. But the other races, using diplomatic language like economic instability and quarantine protocols to avoid assisting, instead offering meaningless platitudes and, in one case, sympathetic clicks. The Xylos were left to die. She sobbed openly. And at that point, Lumina noticed that the council chamber had gone completely silent, and that the eyes of all ambassadors had been drawn to something shuffling down the stairs, towards the speaking platform. After allowing her eyes to adjust, she could make out the form of Ambassador Jenkins, the human, as he paused on the stairs to stretch, yawn, and adjust his tie. As he finally reached the main floor, loud gasps were heard from the assembled diplomats, as the proud members of the 4 oldest races on the council all stood as one and bowed deeply in reverence. The stoic Krathar, the ancient Eldrin, the wise Zil, and the enigmatic Phaetoms, all considered noble and proud, and never ever been seen to bow to anyone, yet here they showed such deep respect it brought many to tears. Jenkins, seemingly oblivious to this show of respect, simply carried on ambling towards the speaking platform, and approached Lumina with a warm smile on his lips. He cleared his throat and held out his hand. "Plague, eh? Nasty business. Give me what data you have, please." Lumina handed over the data tablet without question. The words from Jenkins weren't a command, or said in any sense of the word authoritarian voice, yet every fibre of her being screamed at her to obey. Jenkins swiped through the data, letting out the occasional tut. When he had finally finished, he looked up at Lumina and smiled. "Be back in a jiffy." And with that, he clicked his fingers and disappeared, which caused even more louder gasps. Even the 4 elder races seemed taken aback. The room seemed to stand still after Jenkins' surprising departure. The events in the chamber had stupefied everyone, and when, after a few minutes, the silence was replaced with murmurs of disbelief from the ambassadors who seemed to be coming back to their senses, then there was a sound like a dull whoosh, and Jenkins was back in the same spot as he had previously occupied, with another data tablet in his hands and a friendly smile. "Here you go, should sort out that little plague for you," he said, before turning around and began shuffling back to his seat. Lumina looked at the data and couldn't believe her eyes. The humans had handed her a cure for the plague. The council was adjourned in complete shock. The Xylos scientists quickly confirmed its potency, proclaiming it as a miracle. They were in awe of its elegance and how astonishingly effective it was. Mass production began immediately saving billions of lives. The council officially thanked the humans for the cure, and for the most part life returned to normal. But the Groll, a brutish expansionist race, had engineered the plague to wipe out the Xylos so they could seize control of their resource-rich territory, and now enraged by the human intervention, The Groll ambassador took the stage and declared war on the Xylos, claiming them weak and their demise inevitable. The council debated and votes taken, but due to the financial cost of defending the Xylos and the potential of war with the Groll, the Xylos were left to their fate. A vast Groll fleet was dispatched. Bristling with weaponry arrived in the Xylos home system, preparing to wipe out the Xylos once and for all. But as they plunged deeper in the Xylos system, a ship emerged from out of nowhere. A single, sleek, unassuming human vessel shimmered into existence, directly blocking their approach. It was dark and utterly devoid of visible weaponry, but gave off a presence which unnerved the crews of the Groll fleet. A single transmission from the human ship was received by the Groll commander. A calm voice boomed across the Groll comms channel. "This is the Locks and Glens Transport Retiree Express. You are ordered to withdraw from Xylos space immediately." The Groll commander scoffed. "A single human ship? You dare defy the might of the Groll Empire?" And with that, he waved his claw at his comms office. "All ships, fire at will. Let them learn that crossing the Groll Empire has consequences." With that, the Groll fleet opened fire on the single human ship. Lasers cut through the void and plasma, and kinetic projectiles slammed into the human vessel. The Groll commander stood incredulous on his bridge, staring at the view screen. Where there should have been a rapidly cooling cloud of debris was the human ship, untouched and seemingly rather more menacing than before. A human suddenly appeared on the view screen, wearing a rather loud Hawaiian shirt and sipping something out of what resembled a coconut. He looked the Groll commander directly in the eye, tutted, and snapped his fingers. "Next time, listen to your elders." With that, every Groll sailor, marine and soldier on the fleet found themselves standing on the Groll homeworld in a state of shock, as the Groll fleet command tried desperately to stop its fleet, which only moments earlier had been in the Xylos system, was now unmanned and on a direct course towards the Groll sun. They watched helplessly as their entire fleet ceased to exist. Several weeks later, Lumina stood in the council chamber. She was still in shock. The disasters her people have faced caused her immense sorrow, but the unlikely salvation of her race from these events, by a race she hardly knew anything about, spurred her on to find out more. So she did the unthinkable. She approached the ancient Eldrin and Zil ambassadors, who regarded her with a quizzical wisdom. "Child," the Eldrin ambassador began, his voice gentle but with a resonance that echoed around the chamber. "The humans are the first, the oldest of us all. They are powerful beyond comprehension, and our most powerful weapons are but toys to them. They tolerate our flaws and guide us when necessary, and when needed they teach us as a parent would when guiding his children." The Zil ambassador added, a faint tremor in their usually steady voice. "They have seen races rise and fall. They have witnessed stars being born and fade into nothing. They are our guardians and will pick us up when we stumble. Although they prefer to nap through most of it, they are always ready. And when they finally stir, well, you've seen what happens." Lumina looked towards the empty seat of Ambassador Jenkins. A newfound respect and a healthy dose of fear overcame her. Humanity, she realized, may be lazy, slow, and prone to snoring so loudly they cause the holographic display to vibrate, but they are capable of erasing entire fleets with a snap of their fingers. With power like that, perhaps it was best they mostly slept.